I've just been shared the most heinous thread on the internet about photographers. And I'm not going to share the link because one, that photographer didn't ask to be discussed, and two, I don't want to add fuel to the fire. But there's a whole discussion about a particular photographer who is well known on the internet as to whether they are a real photographer. And I was like, you absolute. And then I thought a bit more about it and went, yeah, actually, that's a valid question. That matters. Now, I want you, before I go to the bit where I answer the question, to let me know in the comments below what you think a real photographer is without watching any more of this video. Let me know. Pause for a second. Let me know. And I will read them all. I'll give it a little like thing to show that I've read it, because I do enjoy these conversations. And YouTube's a weird thing, so I'm sat here at the moment by myself talking to a camera. It's a bit weird. I'd rather get something back. So if you can comment, do comment. Now, I'm not going to name this photographer and I'm not going to talk about them. What I'm going to do is throw myself under the bus because I think I'm in a very similar position, perhaps in a lot of ways. So I take it. It's not fair to discuss somebody who's not in the room to defend themselves. So we're going to use me as an example. I'm going to tell you, firstly, why I am a real photographer, because that's what my ego wants to hear. And then I'm going to tell you the extremely valid counter argument for why I'm not. Then why it matters, and then which one is correct. So, I'm a real photographer. I'm here in my studio. I've got a Broncolor Para 177 back there. Broncolor kit everywhere, medium format cameras, technical cameras, studio. I have an agent. I shoot global campaigns. I currently have 5 billboard campaigns out. 2 lots of brands where the images on the packages are all mine, so we shot all of those. 2 TV adverts, although I think one only appears on like Netflix and Amazon, but I suppose that's TV nowadays. And 2 social media adverts, and then a editorial coming out this Friday in the Times. Or was it Saturday in the Times? It's in the Times this weekend. A very big editorial, actually. It's the biggest editorial I've ever done. I make more money in one job as a photographer, apart from the editorial, which obviously, as we all know, pays peanuts. One job of photography pays more money than anything else I do in the entire year. I am definitely a real photographer. You meet me at a party and say, Scott, what do you do? Now, if I'm really drunk, I'll say, I'm an artist. I'm an artist. But generally speaking, I say, yeah, I'm a photographer. I shoot commercial work, a real profession. Not, passport photos, not family portraits, not street photography or landscape. I shoot commercial work. Big money, campaigns, massive crews, commercial work. I must be a real photographer. However, I'm definitely not a real photographer because see this massive studio here, which is not as big as it actually looks on YouTube, but see, it's my lovely studio. Scott the photographer does not own it. This is owned by Tin House YT Limited, my education platform limited company. I don't have a limited company for my photography. I'm in the UK. I sole trader it. Still have to do all the VAT and all the rest of it, but it's sole traded. Sole traded? Sole traded. I spend more time in my studio not being a photographer than I do being a photographer. I spend more time making educational content. It's currently Monday morning. I'm supposed to be planning my test shoot on Wednesday, but I'm filming a YouTube video. Gets worse though. See that Broncolor Para 133 back there? I didn't buy it. I got given it because I'm an influencer. I am the worst. Not only am I an influencer, I'm on YouTube. Literally where dreams go to die. This is like last ditch saloon. This is where you come when you really can't make it as a photographer. Imagine making so little money as a photographer that you also have to be on YouTube. That's embarrassing, isn't it? And then I sell workshops. And then we have a private platform for all the more in-depth and shooty stuff, which is on a subscription model. So you can either buy a workshop with a lump sum, or if you don't like that, you can do a subscription. If you don't like that, you can do whichever one you want to go for. We have all of that. We do portfolio reviews. I do mentorship. I got 6 photographers in the last 3 years signed with an agent. That puts them in the top 0.01% of photographers. Took me a decade to get an agent. Most of them did it in under 2 years. But it gets worse than that. I've got a jewellery business. My partner's packaging up earrings at the moment to be sent out. And I'm an agent. I represent photographers. I spent more time last week putting together pitch documents for other photographers than I did my own pitch documents. How can I possibly sit here saying I'm a real photographer when I have to do all these extra things? Not only that, if you combine all the money from all these different businesses together, it makes about the same amount as my photography. So really, I only make 50% of my income as a photographer. So how can I be a real photographer? Now, both of those arguments are very valid. Both of them are. You might be sitting here going, I'm not watching Scott, he's not a real YouTuber. He spends most of his time, he gets more money in a day than he makes in a year from YouTube doing a photo shoot. He's not a real YouTuber, why should I watch his videos? Or you might be sat here going, why should I watch Scott's videos about being a photographer? He's on YouTube. If he was that successful, he'd be shooting every day. Now, there's a lot of truth to both of these. If I was shooting every day, say for example, at my current rate, I'd been shooting every day for 3 years, I would neither be in my studio nor a photographer. I'd be on a beach. I would be gone. I'd have retired at 31 if that was the case. But that's not how our industry really works. When you're starting out, you're doing small jobs. Yeah, sure, you shoot 5-6 days a week. But when you're doing major commercial campaigns, you do not. You could also say, if Scott was so successful at photography, why does he have other businesses? Does he need the money? Should I be listening to his advice? If he's got a jewellery business, he's not even in this sector. Or you could be going, Scott's a really sensible guy here. He's planning for his kids' future. He's planning for their grandkids' future. He's saving all of his money. He still lives on a student salary, which I do. I still live on about, I think I'm spending $2,000 a month on my personal life. Everything else goes in investments. I don't touch it. It doesn't make me happy. But maybe if I was making more money, I'd be living on $20,000 a month. Who knows? And the reason it bothers people and the reason it upsets people is because, and I get this, nobody wants to be hoodwinked. Nobody wants to be paying for a service, investing their time, investing their effort to learn from somebody who's not the real deal. I get that. Now, I'm quite confident in saying I'm a real photographer. I shoot global campaigns. We make a lot of money doing it. However, if I didn't, would it make me less of a teacher? If I didn't make the money I do, and if I didn't charge what I do, would it make me less of an educator? I don't think so. And I'd go as far as saying, and here's some good examples, being good at something doesn't make you a good teacher. My violin teacher when I was younger was a gentleman called Stuart Johnson, who was exceptionally good at playing the violin. Exceptionally good. He performed around the world. You can listen to his performances on YouTube still to this day. He passed away many years ago. He was an awful teacher. Awful teacher. I didn't do very well with him at all. You know, it was a big thing. He only selected so many pupils per year and all the rest of it. I didn't do very well under him. On the flip side, my swimming coach, who made me a better swimmer, couldn't swim. My cycling coach, who got me sort of like top 10 national results, never won a bike race. Doesn't mean they're any good at it. Now, sure, you need to understand the subject, but you don't need to be doing the subject to understand it. However, by doing the subject, you definitely do understand it. So I understand that. As you probably heard from violin, swimming, cycling, I'm an elitist. I've got a meeting to get to. Better wrap this up quick. I like to be at the top of whatever I do. That's not for everybody. I understand that. I would not do something if I didn't think there's a good chance of me being at that elite end. And that is both very useful in terms of making money and very unuseful in terms of mental health and probably general personality traits. I get that. But here's what I believe a real photographer is. Being a commercial photographer does not make you a real photographer. I shoot adverts for big brands. Nobody needs that apart from those people wanting to make money from my images. A real photographer for me is the following. It's somebody who practices. Not somebody who shoots images to see whether at 1.2 the background's got great bokeh. Not somebody who reads forums and sits there typing like a keyboard warrior. Not somebody who looks at kit reviews. If you spend more time consuming on the internet than you do shooting, you're not a real photographer. If you work a day job and also have an agent and shoot maybe 2-3 campaigns a year, you're a photographer. You're a real photographer. If you don't have a day job and you have an agent and you're getting 1 commission a year, you're a real photographer. If you commute to work and then work a night shift as well because you've got to make ends meet, and during that bus journey you've got a project going on, which my friend did have, where you photograph the backs of people's heads. It was called Backhead. Great project. Did it for years. He is a real photographer. And I would actually say more so than I am. Because yes, I shoot my personal work and all the rest of it. I don't spend that much time doing it. It's almost a side quest at this point. These people, they're putting in the good work. If you're out there shooting landscapes in -5, when I'm sat in the studio going, like, I've got 5 layers on and the heating on here, I'm uncomfortable. You're a real photographer. That tree's never paying you for that photograph. You're there for the love of it. Street photographer, real photographer. Portrait photographer, real photographer. And here's what defines it for me. Passion, projects, and practice. Those 3 things make you a real photographer. Most of the photographers I know who are better than I am don't make a penny from it. Some of the photographers I know who make more than I do hate the job. I go to bed thinking about photography. I wake up thinking about photography. My personality is I'm a photographer, and I know, yet again, probably something I should bring up with a therapist. However, that's who I am. If that's who you are and that's how you identify, regardless of financial success, publications, or quality of your current work, you are a real photographer.